Well, it's 11:11, so I'm gonna begin. So, welcome if you are coming back from last week. Welcome back. If you're new, hello. Good to see you. My name is Zsazsa Leverett, and I'm a yoga instructor, a meditation instructor. I do tumbling with children, and I also have my own witchcraft practice that's personal. And then I also have I read tarot for people at Supo Salon, usually when this quarantine isn't happening. But yeah, so today I'm here to teach you about witchcraft and how you can bring it into your own life. If you want to rewatch last week's video, that was about what is witchcraft. Oh, hi, Nia. Last week's video was about what is witchcraft. This week is how do you bring it into your life. So, before we begin, I recommend grounding yourself, cleansing yourself, and getting ready for this class. So I'm going to personally be burning some Palo Santo, and actually we're going to be talking about burning stuff in a little bit. Hello! So I just learned that my comments take about a minute before I can see them. So be patient. I'm sorry if I don't see your comments right away, but if you have any questions throughout class, please feel free to leave a little comment, and I'll try to respond to it as soon as possible. So, why do we cleanse? We cleanse because we don't want to bring any outside energy into this inside time, this inside your mind space. And burning something can trigger something in your subconscious if you use it often enough, where you realize, oh, I smell this, now it's time to relax, it's time to settle in. And also they have special properties, and we're going to be talking about those later. So, if you use incense or sage, Palo Santo, go ahead, use that now. If you use salt water, or even if you just ground, take your shoes off and feel the floor underneath you, take a deep breath in. Exhale what doesn't serve you. Let it go. Okay. I don't know about you, but I feel ready. I feel ready to go. And as usual, I have my little notebook here, all my stuff I want to talk about. So, what are we talking about today? It's witchcraft. I'm going to do a little review. So, we learned last week that witchcraft is using your subconscious and the cycles of the universe to your advantage. That is what witchcraft is. It's nothing spooky. It can be, but it's like a neutral vessel. It's what you put into it, you get out of it. So if you put good things into it, you'll get great things out of it. So, with that in mind, you have to use symbols, or you should use, as a beginner, you should use symbols, spirits, and tools to your advantage. You don't have to use all of those things. You could choose what works for you, but I especially recommend, more than anything, symbols. And symbols and tools, they kind of go hand in hand, and spirits are kind of both of those things. They are both a symbol and a tool, and they're a little helper for you. So, but before we get a move on, when I talk about spirits, I'm talking about, personally, for me, the energies of the universe that have patterns that we can pick up on. So I don't personally see like a person perhaps helping me. It's an energy. It's more fluid. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that, but you guys can definitely put whatever your meaning you want into it. Yeah, make this practice work for you. So, tools. What are tools? How are we going to be using these tools? So tools are, just like the usual word tool, it's something that helps you, but specifically, witchcraft tools help you to visualize what you're trying to achieve, because the human brain is a very visual, it's a visual thing. So if you look at something, it's a lot easier to spark something in your brain than if you think about it vaguely. So, what's a good tool that I think every beginner should have is either a workspace, an altar, or some sort of sacred space, basically, where you can find a place to settle in with your mind. And that doesn't have to be, a big space. It doesn't even have to be out in the open. Lots of people I know are in situations where, let's say their parents, for example, let's say your parents aren't accepting of this lifestyle. That's totally understandable. That's very common. It's just, a little bit of education is needed on their side, but until that happens, you can have a mini altar, you can have a hidden altar, but, it's very important to have a space that is sacred to you, so that you can have a place to do your work. And with saying that, you can actually do your witchcraft anywhere. But it's nice to, every once in a while, be able to settle in with it and relax and, be yourself with a space. So, that's really important. I've actually made myself a travel altar. I found a little tiny wooden box about this big at Michael's Arts and Crafts, which I know for a fact are still open in America, so if you're in America, you can go to Michael's Arts and Crafts. Wear your mask, if this is something you want to do at least. But I found this little tiny box, and I just happened to have a wood burning tool, and I burnt my symbols into it, and I put some rocks in there, and there's a space for a tiny little candle, so if I ever need to have a sacred space with me, I have that. But I also have my altar just behind me. You can see some candles and stuff, and then I have some mini altars, and I got a couple of them. Eventually you might want more than one. You probably will. Lots of people use a working altar and then an ancestral altar, which very helpful, very necessary. But for now, you just want one place to do your work, one place to settle in and do your meditations, because meditation is a tool you can use, or you should use, if you want to really get a lot out of your practice. Now, the next thing, I had mine right here, there it is. Next thing, a notebook. You really should use a notebook. Last week I was talking about how everybody's very different in their practice, and your notebook is a tool to help you understand what you need out of your practice, what works for you, what doesn't. I love looking through books that have, here's a spell, do it this way, you're going to get what you want. Awesome. But sometimes when you look at these spells, these directions, it doesn't make sense for you. It just doesn't spark anything in you. And you go, I don't know. I don't really associate, let's say, yellow with money, and maybe you associate it with happiness, and they just happen to put money for yellow for some reason. And, you can always switch these things out. But you want to write down what you did, how it helped you. Yeah. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. I feel like my throat's getting a little scratchy. Uh-oh, I'm knocking over my sage. Okay. Let's continue. So, yeah, notebook's very important. You can bring that with you everywhere you go, because you never know when you're going to practice witchcraft. It's an everyday thing. And I'll get into that in a little bit. Little tiny examples of what you can do. Another tool you could really get a lot out of is a divination tool. And I have a list of tons of them. Personally, I use mostly tarot. I have a couple of other ones I use. I like to use runes. In my family, there is a history of tea leaves, which I just haven't gotten around to learning. But also we have a history of tarot. So that's the side that I have learned so far, and it works for me awesomely. I also have a pendulum, but I don't work with that as much. But there's lots of other things you can do. Oh, and crystal balls. I love crystal balls. Yeah. So there's also I Ching coins. Those work for a lot of people. I've heard that apparently it's good for Capricorns. I'm a Capricorn, so maybe I should look into that. Scrying mirrors. So scrying means to be looking into something and you meditate on it until you can start to see images appear, and it might just be really gentle symbols. But yeah, you pick up what you see, you decide what those symbols mean for you, and then once you see them, you go, aha! That's what that says. That's what that means. And also to scry in fire. That's a really fun one. I like that one. I've done it a couple times. But yes, the more practice with something, the better it's going to be for you. So I recommend choosing one main one and then, learning about the others as well, because they can all be very helpful. Why would you use a divination tool? Divination is really good for answering questions that you have. Sometimes you can be doing a ritual over and over again, and you're like, it's still not working. What is wrong? And you can ask your divination tools, and they can help you out. They're your friend. They're here to help you. As long as you respect them, they'll respect you, and they'll try to, help you out. If you want to watch a video on how to respect your tarot cards, for example, you can watch yesterday's video. I did that. So yeah, it's really important to learn the language of your tools. You want to make sure that you're understanding them, and so use that notebook, decide what they mean, write it down, figure it out. In the long run, it'll help. Another thing is another tool is meditation. So I was saying that that's really helpful. Meditation is extremely important. And yeah, so just to be clear here, our 4 most important tools you're going to be using is a workspace, a notebook, your divination tools, and meditation. And I offer a meditation class on Mondays, so if you want to get a gentle introduction to meditation, it's not extremely witchcraft, orientated, I guess. It's more, it's for the general public, but it definitely is, witchcraft, because all meditation is, most things in life is witchcraft. So, but specifically, meditation is really important because what is meditation? It is basically a brain practice, and it is a way to strengthen your mind. That is basically simply it, because there's so many different types of meditation. I personally teach Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra is a very specific way to get into that deeper state, but there's lots of different meditation practices that could work for you. But like I said, witchcraft is using the cycles of the universe and your subconscious to your advantage. So to really get the most out of that, you want to have a strong brain. So meditation is going to be really helpful in that. It's also going to help you be able to practice getting in and out of certain states of mind. In my class, we do manifestations of opposites. So we think of one sensation and then we think of the opposite of that. And we try to embody that in your mind. And that practice is going to help you, bring up those sensations, those feelings faster, stronger, more fluidly. And yeah, so, it could be anything from, if you don't want to watch my Monday videos, that's cool. You can practice at home with, you can just sit there, and after you've taken some deep breaths, you've kind of checked in with your body, relaxed a bit, and you feel like you're ready, you can start to think of an emotion that is easy for you. So maybe it's really easy for you to feel happy. So you start to think about being happy, and you might even notice just thinking about happiness makes the corners of your lips move up and your cheeks rise and your body feels better, and you might notice that your muscles feel good. And then you can think about the opposite of happiness, which is up to you. You could choose sadness or anger, and you could try to embody those sensations. How does that feel? And then you go back and forth between the two, and that exercise is helping you to understand and practice that it's kind of up to you, your mental state. And with that being said, as somebody with mental health issues, I don't want to pretend that it's going to be easy, because it's not. And if you have mental health issues like depression or anxiety, just for example, it's going to be harder. It's, you already have a lower health in your brain, so you have to build it up. And the more you practice, the easier it's going to get. But you are not hopeless if you have a mental health issue. You can still use these practices, and they can be very helpful. And actually, I do use them. When I'm feeling just like when I feel like giving up, I will take a seat at my altar, and I will use some kind of good smelling stuff, usually some Palo Santo, and I will sit there and realize that it's up to me how I feel. And it doesn't always work, but the more you practice, the stronger it is, the easier it is. So, yes, that's why you want to practice meditation. That's also really helpful to have an altar space, so you can kind of get into that space easier, because your body, your subconscious will eventually learn, I'm sitting here, it's time to do some work, and it'll be easier to drop in. So yeah, those two work very nicely together. Now, why do I like to burn Palo Santo? I said I was going to get into this. I like burning Palo Santo because of a few things. So, once again, it's going to eventually trigger your subconscious. It's time to go. It's time to work on some mental health stuff. It's time to work on some spiritual stuff. It's time to exercise that brain. So I like to use a smell because it's a sense, and you also do a lighting your lighter, and you hold it in one hand, and that is a movement, so it's very a physical, tactile thing as well. And then you could see the flame, so it's visual. You're really getting your whole body involved here. You could hear the click of the lighter, and the sound of, like, it's very gentle, but the gentle sound of the flame. And yeah, so you're using your whole, the only thing you don't really use as much is your taste, but you kind of are. If you're smelling, you can kind of smell and taste a little bit that smoke. And so with burning Palo Santo, I want to first of all mention that it's important to use ethical sources, because witchcraft is actually getting much more popular these days, and so sage and Palo Santo are being overgrown and then over harvested. So, and it's not good for the earth, it's not good for the planet, and as I've said, the cycles of the universe, we have to use those to our advantage. And if the earth is getting sad, that's not to our advantage. We need the earth to survive. So we want to take care of the planet. And so you can find Palo Santo that was collected from the ground, so it was already had fallen off of a tree, but that is difficult to come in contact with. It is more expensive too. Luckily, I use it for a short amount of time. I don't keep it burning, that way I don't have to use as much of it. But I like Palo Santo because it's gentle. I prefer it over sage personally because it's gentle. It gets rid of negative energy and it replaces it with a soft, smooth energy. And sage is great. It actually, it kills bacteria in the air. It's powerful. That smell, it's very cleansing, but it's almost too powerful. It kills good and bad energy. So if you do use sage, make sure you're replacing that with some good energy too. Like maybe if you have sweetgrass. If you don't, you can also just, you could find something. Like I said, witchcraft is all about intention, so there's something else you could burn to bring positive energy back into the room. So if you have kind of like any herbs in your kitchen, you can look into those, what do their properties have, and then you can burn them. Or you could even use just your mind. I know right now in a quarantine, we're kind of out of money. So, I know I am. So, using your brain and just visualizing good energy, you open up the window and, banish bad energy, welcome good energy into your home. And, a gentle breeze might come on in and fill your house with some goodness, some fresh air. But with sage, I haven't bought sage in a while, but when I found out that it was being over-harvested, I had already kind of amassed a big pile of sage because I found a place that sold it for pretty cheap, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen it this cheap, so I bought a bunch of it. And then people give me presents of sage, and so I have a lot of sage, which has lasted me a very long time, because like I said, I don't use a lot. I use it for a few moments to really settle myself in, to cleanse, get that energy away, and then bam. So since then, I've been growing sage, and that's actually pretty easy. If you go to a Home Depot, you can find one that's already starting to grow, or you can start it from seed, which is really fun, and yeah, that's totally ethical to grow your own. You took care of it. You didn't chop down a forest for it, so that's some good stuff. But actually, so I drew out a little pentacle for you guys. So if you look here, I'm going to try to put it above the, I'm going to ignore the rest of my notes, but here's a little pentacle, and each end of the star represents a different element. So water, fire, earth, air, spirit. This one is the one that's the most accepted, is, it's reversed for you guys, but if you look at the pentacle and then you look to the right, that point is usually water, and then in that clockwise direction, it's fire, earth, air, and then the top is spirit, which is you, basically. Well, you're more in the middle, but the spirit is in you. And so burning something also encompasses all the elements, because you, the spirit, are involved in this process. And let me just take out some Palo Santo, for example. So how does smoke appear? Well, it's a lot of stuff inside of the plant itself, but also it's mostly water particles being kind of like, evaporated, I guess. Not evaporated, but you know what I mean. It's being released into the air. And so that water particle is creating that smoke. So there's your water. Then fire. Obviously, you're adding fire to this. So fire, we already have two elements down. Then we go to the next point as earth. This is part of earth. This is a plant. This is a real, this was a living thing at one point. So earth, and then air. Once you burn it, you can see the movement of the air. And so by burning this, you're kind of, here we go. you can see it. It's visual. So this whole process really gets you in touch with all the elements, which is really important, because even if you're not an earth practitioner, which I mostly am, it's still part of your life, whether you like it or not, so, and it's very important to use the cycles of the universe. So you want to honor the different parts of the universe, the parts of this earth, and obviously it's made up of more than just those four, but those are the main ones most practitioners honor. There are some others that honor metal too, which is really interesting. I like that. And some other ones, like, say, I guess fire and plasma are similar, but yeah, so you just want to honor what this earth is made of, because that's what's helping you get a better life, basically, and that's why you're doing witchcraft, is to help yourself, help your friends, help your family. Yeah. So we only have a few more minutes left, so I just want to give you guys some examples of things you could do that's really helpful, and that is witchcraft. So intention is everything. That's what I want to leave you with. Intention is everything. So even if you don't have an altar, even if you don't have a divination tool, having a notebook, I still think is very important. And meditation is very important, because that's kind of most of the work is meditation, is meditating on, is thinking on what you want and how to get it. So, for example, exercise. Exercise is witchcraft. And some people will be like, what? But You can watch my last week's video and you can understand. Exercise. So you are, you know, before you exercise, most people know that not only does it make you stronger, fitter, you know, healthier, makes your blood pump smoothly and it gets rid of a bunch of toxins in your body, it also releases endorphins and all that good stuff in your brain that makes you feel happy. So by exercising intentionally, and you know, you could still do witchcraft without intention, I believe. A lot of people say it's the intention that makes it witchcraft, but I mean, if you're affecting the cycles, whether you know it or not, it's still witchcraft. But it's way more powerful, like 100-fold more powerful, if you're intentionally using if you're doing something intentionally. So, before you exercise, you could sit down for a moment, or just stop. You could put your hand over your heart if you like, and your stomach, and you could tell yourself, you know, I'm doing this for my body, I'm strengthening myself, I'm giving myself love, I'm taking care of myself, I am removing toxins from my blood, I am purifying myself through exercise, through sweat, and you know, you can keep going about all the great things exercise does for you. And then once you've felt that in your bones, you know, you feel right, you've sat with it and it feels good, exercise. Forget about that intention. I mean, you don't have to. It'd be even more powerful if you keep it in mind, but you can just forget about it. It's you know, it's back there. And you exercise, and then when you're done, you thank yourself, you know, going through that work, for putting in effort, for sweating out all those toxins, blah, blah, blah. That's witchcraft. That's intentional work, intentional self-love, self-care. Another one is eating food. You could be very intentional with what you eat. You know, if you look at, well, I don't eat salmon, but because I'm vegetarian, but I know salmon is really good for you. And if you know, have a piece of salmon on your plate, and you know, you thank the salmon for helping you get stronger, and you understand, and you know, you sit with it for a moment, and you just, you know, acknowledge that it's full of protein, full of amazing nutrients and fatty acids, good stuff for your brain, all that good stuff. And then you eat it, and then as you're eating it, you know, you visualize that goodness going into your body, and then once it hits your stomach, it gets, you know, it's going through the digestive tract, and it's absorbing all that goodness. That's witchcraft. Sleeping, you know, being intentional with your sleep before you go to bed. Think, oh, this practice is going to give me love. It's going to give me, you know, life. It's going to just, without sleep, I would be a demon, you know. I would go crazy. And, yeah, so you want to really be aware that sleep is very helpful. It's important. It's necessary. And it's filling you with great stuff. You know, it's healing your body. I saw something that said that there's a good chance that, I think when you're laying down, the spinal fluids go into your brain, and that's potentially a reason why we sleep, potentially, because nobody really knows, like, why we need sleep. I mean, it makes us feel better, but why? Not so sure. Hello, Helena. Yeah, so just being very intentional with that. Another thing you could be intentional with is going to work. I would go on the train, and I would visualize, you know, in Chicago we have the CTA system, and it, you know, it connects the whole city. So sometimes I'd be on the train, and I'd be thinking about, you know, where this train goes, it brings good energy to everybody everywhere. Other days I would think, this train is taking me to a better life, you know, more money. It's this train represents prosperity, it represents speed and strength, and just by sitting on it, I'm, you know, absorbing energy of the city. And there's lots of different ways you could look at the train. When you go home, you can think of it as this is your, like your little, kind of like, you know, that boat takes you home. It's that final step before you can get home and just relax. So those are just some examples of things you can do that's everyday witchcraft, that if you just put a little bit more intention in, you'll get more out of it. There's been a study that if you exercise, if you clean houses, for example, and, you know, cleaning is a lot of hard work. It's very, like, you know, it makes you sweat. If you clean a house with the intent, with knowing that it's good exercise, you actually lose more calories, lose more fat, gain more muscle. And just by being intentional, your body helps you more, because your brain is so much more powerful than you give it credit for. So, yeah, those are some good examples I think I could leave you with. And, yeah, thank you so much for coming to class today. I hope you got something out of it. This has been pretty fun. It's getting to talk about things I like. If you could possibly donate, I would really appreciate it. If you can't, I totally understand. I also have lost a lot of hours. I think I have one paid hour a week now. So I understand. But if you are still working and you can help me out, oh, there's something in my eye. And you can help me out, I would really appreciate it. And, you know, from the bottom of my heart, I'm grateful. Down here I have my little username typed out, but if you want to send me money on Venmo at Zsazsa Leverett, no spaces, no capitalized letters, yeah, that would be awesome. Otherwise, if you have any questions, before we go any further, the secret word of today is anger. Ooh. Okay, so if you didn't know, I have been doing a secret word every day, and if you collect all of them, then whoever gets all of them, whether it's one person or 5, I'll give you a free Celtic Cross reading online. So, collect those words. I'll be asking for them at the end of the Friday exercise class. So, yeah, if there's any questions, I'll wait a little bit. I know that my comments take a while to pop up. Questions, comments, or concerns. And I hope you're all having a good morning. You have something fun to do later. Oh, I love all your hearts, Nia. Thank you. If you want to just tell me what you're doing later today, that'd be cool too. I'm quite bored. I'd like to hear what you're saying. Coffee. I don't know if it snowed for you guys, but it snowed for me. Looked out the window. It's brighter than usual even, because all that white snow everywhere. Okay, I'm going to wait until 45 to end this. It's 1 more minute. Comments, questions, concerns, funny jokes, anything. Let me know. If you want to just send me an emoji. Nia says she's forcing herself to work out and is sad because of the snow. Well, oh, you're welcome. She also says thanks for the lovely class. Well, I mean, I guess you can still exercise inside, or maybe just go build a snowman. I don't know last time you played in the snow, but that always makes me sweat. I remember being a kid building snow forts, and that's exercise in itself, and it's more fun than running around. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you guys have a great day, and, you know, try to appreciate that snow. That means, you know, global warming hasn't fully hit us yet. It's on its way, but we still have snow, right? Okay. There's my positivity. Thank you so much for showing up, for watching. See you tomorrow for Trauma Informed Thursday. Get some good exercise on your own. You know, your own way, basically. I'll be giving you tons of options. You choose how you want to do your yoga. And, yeah. See you tomorrow. Bye, guys.